EA Sports. It's in the game.
Okay, I'm in.
Yes, it's working. So that's cool. Good. Hooray. I mean, you know, this is a podcast. So
Intro done.
we will edit. It's fine. It's probably
Nah, keep it.
this. Oh, it's chaos. Hi, Paddy.
Hey, how's it going?
Oh, good. Right. Cool. And start. Welcome to Living La Vida Loca podcast, a retro gaming podcast for some of your retro gaming needs. My name is Faz.
And I'm Rich.
Wonderful. We did it right.
Eventually.
Yeah. Excellent. It must be our good luck charm all the way from Switzerland, Paddy Gunn.
Wait.
A round of applause. We did the clap.
Grüezi, Mitenand.
Yay! He did the thing!
He said the thing.
Drink. Yeah. Hey, dude.
Howdy.
Yeah, it's really good to speak to you.
Yeah.
A formal, process that we'll be sending out to other people.
Setting.
We might even talk to each other after the podcast. Who knows? Anyway, or not. So, this is a special podcast that we are doing for the very first time in the app, or the Spotify for podcasters, or vice versa.
Yeah, what could possibly go wrong?
Exactly. This is going to go really well. But we are going to be talking about football, not soccer. None of this. Before anyone, we've got a couple of listeners in Mexico and places that might call it a weird word, but this is football. And then when we do the American football podcast, that'll be American football. But so that's the way we're gonna decipher between it.
Not to rain on your parade, Faz, but I'm pretty sure they call it football in Mexico.
Yeah. I also thought that too when I said it. What did I say about not editing this podcast?
It's too late. You're
That's
into
very true. But look, hey, I haven't broken through in Mexico yet, so this is good for me.
Yeah, there's one guy, I think it was maybe someone on holiday, but I don't know who's been to Mexico, so
We only know about 12 people, so
yeah.
I'm sure we can narrow that down.
We could just WhatsApp around and say who's been to Mexico, please.
12 people, and I'm one of them, so.
Yeah, there you go.
And thank you for that. You are one of our closest supporters, so we appreciate you listening to us.
Hey, look, I've been there from the start, man. I've been there from the ground up. Episode 1.
Still listening.
You poor thing.
Have you made it to episode 3 yet? That's the question.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
What's a game? What's a video game that I could just throw in there?
The thing is, we don't remember either, so it's fine.
Have you guys done Battletoads yet?
Oh, you know what?
Yeah.
It's on my list.
Yeah, it's not got there yet, but it'll happen. Have you completed it, Rich?
Oh, fuck no.
No. Okay.
Has anyone? I don't think so.
But I've recently listened to a podcast where someone had, and they said it was underwhelming. So, yeah, I know.
Believe it.
So we are going to be talking about football. And this is going to be a special set of pods where we do a part 1 and part 2. Part 1 is going to be talking a little bit about Paddy, and whilst you would also say that this is not the case, I say that it is. You're probably the most, top 3 people that I know in terms of knowledge around football, and you certainly do the most that I know in terms of research and finding out about football and knowing things. So that's going to be useful to us to, I guess, really plow into your mind.
You're a scholar of the game, and I'm basically an idiot, is what he's getting at.
Thank you, Rich, for that. That's what I'm trying to...
I mean, if we're describing me as a scholar of the game, I'm one of those scholars that's into something like really niche.
Yeah.
Like Darwin was like really into barnacles before he did his whole theory of evolution.
Yeah,
I'm still in my barnacle stage.
Barnacles, they play in what? Croatia?
Yeah. Second league Slovenian team. SK Barnacle.
They're in the qualifying rounds.
would watch that. Absolutely.
The thing is, you would have as well. You would have
I definitely absolutely would.
And this is what I mean. So, just a little bit about Paddy and our friendship, and how we all know each other, etc. And then we will talk on the first part of the podcast. So we're going to release that this week. That we're going to talk predominantly about FIFA, and it feels like the right time to do so because we're kind of, the world is traversing away from the FIFA/EA Sports experience. And it's now going to be called EA Sports FC, which is a fucking terrible name. I don't know why they've done that. I just don't understand. Like, it's worse than FIFA's, bribery, situation. I think I'd rather take that. I'm gonna take Sepp Blatter over that title. Like, I'd rather have him as a friend.
I feel it was kind of like a Poochie thing, like it was like, EAFC, but it's something better. And then they just rolled on EAFC because they knew people would play it anyway.
And it kind of goes in keeping with the series in a way that it feels like this is going to be, like, spoiler alert, but it feels like it was better back in the old days. Like, so
get ready for that. There's going to be a lot of that.
Retro gaming podcast, likes retro games. Shocker.
Look, I tried to go on FIFA 23 last night on the cloud on Game Pass, and it was like, oh, there's lots of people playing this. You'll have to wait 10 minutes. And I was like, this is what's wrong with gaming nowadays. Like,
sorry, I think I just got something stupid in my ears.
Oh, man. So, yeah, let's start then with, why are you in Switzerland, Paddy?
Not to get all Borat on you, but my wife.
Indeed. Your wife.
My lovely wife is Swiss.
Yeah.
Franzi, who you both know well.
Mm-hmm.
You know all there is to know. We obviously we both played American football with you guys.
Mm-hmm.
My wife also happens to be extremely tall with a great wingspan, so was very, very good at said football.
I was watching the netball World Cup final yesterday, and there were some people catching netballs with, like, gun man and wife, like, stacked yesterday. It was ridiculous. I was having flashbacks. It was amazing. So, you guys.
She has often complained that growing up in the Germanics, that there was no netball for her to play, because I think genuinely she'd really, really enjoy it.
Yeah. Is there any in Switzerland?
Not really. I mean, maybe there's some, like, expat teams. There's a lot of English people out here, to be fair. So there are probably a couple of netball teams set up every now and again, but nothing kind of organized school level like when she was here for reals.
Yeah. Oh, right. Well, maybe Kit could be, maybe he can get into some sort of, like, long arm competition in Switzerland.
I am expecting my son to have extremely long arms, yes.
Statistically likely.
Imagine if
it has to be. It has to be.
Yeah. Just get him a couple of broom handles and tie them to him or something like that if you need to. Like,
yeah. I mean, my 5-year-old Oscar is terrible at catching, and it brings great shame upon my family. So, it does work out that genetically, they don't have the same traits as you.
Generation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That is quite shocking with your vacuum hands. God, I used to hate guarding you like it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And then when he does catch it, all he did was fall over. Like, I haven't got time
that's
to
easy. I never had to tackle the guy, but I could pick him off.
I was using all the vacuum in my hands and not my feet. So, yeah, how long have you been in Switzerland now for? How long since you left?
2 years. Basically 2 years. Tomorrow, I think, actually, weirdly enough, we've been here.
Yeah,
we moved here back in 2021, and then got married very quickly after, because got to get that passport.
Green card.
Really hope no one from, like, the Swiss authorities ever listens to this, because I will.
I mean, the likelihood is.
I would say you're probably okay.
Probably. They wouldn't listen to it because it's not in Swiss German anyway. So
there you go.
Hey, that's Star Wars.
That's like the only thing I know. It's like my proof of commitment to the country. I'll just play them my podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so, let's get into that then. So, or a little bit about you then. So, I don't want to do your bio for you, but you're from Leeds.
I am
And
indeed.
yeah, there we go, done. Right. But you have written for the Square Ball fanzine previously, and you're a massive Leeds United fan. And so you kind of got a bit of a media sort of career, I'm going to call it in a way that isn't already, and now you hosting the 15-minute Swiss football podcast. So if you want to tell us a little bit about both those things, and so if people are interested in finding out a little bit more about either of those, that'd be great.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the Square Ball has been going in one format or another since I think 1989 was when it was kind of first put together. It was essentially kind of like a very DIY fanzine made by a couple of Leeds fans to kind of to combat the rise in right-wing political action that was going on in Elland Road in the 1980s. So they kind of used comedy in the magazine to fight against that stuff, and successfully, it seems like, although football's not perfect still, but it's much better than it used to be. And it was kind of revamped in the late 2000s by a couple of guys who were essentially protesting or using the magazine to protest against Ken Bates, who was the owner at the time. So that's when I kind of first started reading the magazine and getting involved with what they were doing. They started the podcast in 2010. And then I first started writing for the magazine, must have been, I don't know, 2015, 2016. I started writing a couple of articles. I had my own blog as well that I'd kind of started doing, and eventually got into the magazine. And now, I mean, I think I've contributed to every issue for the last 2 seasons or something like that, or maybe 3 seasons now. I can't remember. But it's a great group of people, really, really creative. The artwork is always fantastic. If anyone's got any interest in checking it out, squareball.net. To have a look at some of the features on there. If you've any interest in Leeds or football at all, I really do recommend it. They do great stuff. Yeah. And then moving to Switzerland, when we decided we were going to move out here, I thought, well, I'm going to have to get into the football there. Didn't really know anything about Swiss football outside of, say, Basel and Grasshopper Zurich, because we played them once in the UEFA Cup in like 2001. And started watching as many games as I could. When we moved here, started going to as many stadiums as I could. And I started a social media kind of profile called Swiss Stadia, which was all about kind of trying to visit as many grounds as I could and find like little unknown grounds and stadiums of tiny little teams, then go to the Super League stadiums as well and take a few pictures there for the games. And then this year, I decided to jump into the podcasting game, kind of inspired by you guys, to be completely honest. I loved listening to what you guys were doing, and it just seemed like a lot of fun to hit record and get your thoughts down. But I appreciate that Swiss football is a little bit niche, so I thought 15 minutes might just attract a few more people to give it a listen and get into the game. That's basically it.
Yeah, cool, man. Like, as in, on both those accounts, like we've been friends for 10 years now, Paddy. Hopefully it's felt like a good 10 years. That is in, so I mean,
it's flown by. It's flown by.
Me and Paddy met over a coffee machine, effectively. That is in, we were grinding away on in the best possible sense. In Marks and Spencer's, so in 2013, and we used to spend a lot of time talking, shooting the shit over, we had
nothing else to do.
Nothing else to do in a stall that took about £100 a day. Like,
it was ridiculous. It was the most vain, ridiculous projects I think M&S have ever had, and nobody came.
Oh man! In the middle of Leeds City Centre, in the Leeds Market, in a beautiful setting, really, in a really nice stall that we made our own. And we had some crazy sort of connection about a lot of things, really. When it came to sort of any, I guess, football or anything like TV and stuff and everything like that. I remember we just sort of talked the day away. Really, it was a really nice, lovely time of our lives and stuff. And then
it was great.
And then we played football together in a 7-a-side on a Monday night, didn't we? So and you took over running of that for a few sort of a while, wasn't it? Really, that is in
why on earth I decided to do that. That was a terrible decision.
It's a terrible idea. It was, but that was like a really weird social experiment in so much that it was like a very weird sort of dispersed group of lads that are just sort of like randomly
waifs and strays
randomly on an email chain. It was crazy. Like,
it was such an odd collection of people.
Give me John Isherwood up front anytime. Like, if you're listening.
God, I hope John Isherwood's listening to this. That would be great. I still remember when he managed to head the ball out of the cage that we played in.
Yeah.
The nets at Kirkstall Goals were absolutely huge, and he managed to head it out into the woods on the right-hand side. Incredible.
I used to love when the ball went in the woods. I got a break. I got a 2 break from the chaos of 7-a-side. And then we followed each other to American football and the Leeds Samurai. So
that was you getting me into that for sure. Like, you invited me along, and because obviously something else we kind of bonded over was American football as well. So when I found out you were playing, I was all for coming down. And then what was it? How long did we play for the team? I mean, you've been there for.
I think it was about associated with the team, maybe about 4 years, was it? I think.
I think so. About 4 years, yeah.
And that's where we met you, Rich.
That was me, yeah. And I mean, must have been there for about 3 myself, like not playing competitively, but I was around for training and stuff like that. So, I mean, I kind of assumed you guys had been with the team much longer than a year or so before me.
We just look haggard as fuck.
I was just going with great chemistry, and you clearly knew each other well.
We've seen a lot of muddy puddles in Newcastle in 1 year.
I'll never forget. Actually, that is a funny story, kind of linking us back to me coming to Switzerland as well, which was I hadn't been dating Franzi long by the time I played my first game for the Samurai, which was in Manchester, where I ended up living with Franzi because she was there doing her PhD, and I moved for work, and we played some field in Salford. We played against the Crows, Manchester Crows, and it was a bog. It was unreal. It was like knee-deep mud, trying to run through it to catch anything. Ball slick as out. And then I walked back to my kind of new girlfriend's apartment, knocked on the door, and she opens to this drowned rat in front of her. Can I use the shower?
Will you take me like this? Because if you will, I think we're good.
Not only that, she then came along and joined in herself.
Ridiculous. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's all the fun.
Credit's due.
So yeah, I mean, that's a quick lowdown, really, of our relationship and how we all know each other. So it is, like I said at the start, not to go over it again, but really nice to hear your voice and again connect on things that we love. So
did you? I mean, it was a while back now. Did I ever mention I found some of Paddy's square ball work by accident when I was at work, when I was working for a charity and like going through stuff. They had a load of issues of square ball that I was gonna pop on eBay.
Oh right,
sell and make some cash from. I was just having an idle flick through for a couple of minutes, and I recognised this name. It's like, that name is too unusual. Like, there is no way there are 2 guys in Leeds with that name.
Yeah.
Lo and behold, it was our Paddy, and it was like quality stuff. Like, I know.
What kind of year are we talking, Rich? Like, when?
That's a question. So I would have been working at the place probably around 2016, 2017 kind of way. So I don't think they were relatively old issues. I think they were relatively recent from what I can remember.
You're probably looking at some early kind of contributions there from my part.
Well, you got off to a good start then.
Thank you very much. Definitely refined since then, I hope, anyway.
Speaking of good starts to podcast, we are a video gaming, retro gaming podcast. So people might be a bit like, oh, this is a bit like Loving, but fuck those guys. You know what I mean? It's meant to be. So, this is how the chemistry works. This is how we get good chat out of each other. So, the bed's been laid. So let's talk Yeah. I mean, so let's talk a little bit about video games and football. So we decided we're going to talk about FIFA, as aforementioned reasons that, the series is kind of coming to a bit of a weird end, really. It'll still carry on in a different iteration, but in terms of the name, FIFA, and we want to talk about the series as a whole a little bit. We're going to look through some of the games that we could play on the PS Vita, the PSP. Paddy, you picked up a recent game, did you? I say recent, was it about 7 seasons ago or something? I think you said you were playing, maybe.
No, I've got a FIFA 21 on my Switch.
So there we go.
I'm playing that.
Exactly. Well, there we are. So then we've got another handheld there with our sort of more recent FIFA. So I guess should we work our way maybe forward in time and go for the oldest games, and then we talk a bit about sort of our favorite FIFAs and FIFA soundtracks and things, and then we'll probably sprinkle a little bit of football supportership, fanship, where we sit with our teams in real life and stuff and everything over the next sort of pod and a half. That'd be cool.
Cool.
So yeah, I'm gonna have a little look at FIFA 09, which is really weird for me because this is obviously a retro gaming podcast, but it's probably the most recent FIFA that I've played, which is
full stop.
Yeah, full stop, which is crazy. I know, and I'd say I've played about 10 matches on FIFA since 2001. I was a Pro Evo kid. I won't lie about that, and I had I had probably most of Pro Evos up until I'd say maybe 2010, and then I kind of just stopped playing football sims. I don't know why. I don't know if that sort of follows in maybe with my football sort of supporting being a little bit maybe weaker as I grew older and things or something, that is in. I don't want to say that people that play, football sims are children. They're not. But at the same time, it's certainly for me, I kind of maybe grew out of it a little bit. So, so FIFA 09 then, I was really quite surprised at how much of a whole game this was. And what I mean by that is that when I played Tiger Woods, for example, on the PSP, their experience, they seem to have truncated quite a bit of it, made it into sort of you play a few pros and you can't do a full season on it. Certainly on the earlier Tiger Woods games on PSP. Whereas this seemed to have a lot of modes and there's a lot you could actually dig into. And I was like, oh, that's pretty impressive.
Some meat on the bone.
Yeah. So... well done, FIFA 09 and the PSP. Full soundtrack and, sounds great coming out the system as well, which is really good. I'll dig into a couple of modes. So just, so you guys get a bit of a feel of it, really. The main mode is Be a Pro. And I will come back to that at the end because that's, the meatiest thing, really. And the bit I want to talk about the most, probably. But there's an exhibition mode. Dead straightforward. It'd be interesting to see what that looked like back in the day in terms of being able to play online against other people, how much latency there was and how much
players teleporting around the pitch.
Yeah, exactly, how much you actually enjoyed yourself. But then, so one of the modes, football IQ. Is there a football IQ on any FIFA modes, FIFA games that you guys have played?
I genuinely don't think I've ever heard of it before as a mode.
Paddy?
I gotta say, no, exactly the same. I mean, I like FIFA 09. That time period was a bit of like a black hole for me with FIFA.
Yeah,
I think I skipped from like FIFA 06 to FIFA 11 or FIFA 12.
Yeah.
I didn't play anything in between because I was only playing Pro Evo at that time.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what it was, but for me around that time, FIFA was just like, I don't know, it felt a little bit lost, like it didn't really know what it wanted to do.
Yeah.
It was trying to be a little bit too complicated. There was a lot of stuff like, select this button, play this pass, or hold down this trigger to play it. Like it was all a bit too overcomplicated, whereas Pro Evo was offering something a lot more, I would say, challenging, but fluid at the same time.
It's interesting you should say that. Because it did feel like this game had started to go that way a little bit, in so much there was some features where it was like, call for a pass and stuff and things, and I'm like,
yeah.
it didn't feel as intuitive as Pro Evolution Soccer PES, or we call it PES or Pro Evo? Pro Evo.
Yeah, I tend to go with Pro
I always call
Evo.
it Pro Evo.
Yeah, okay, we're going to call that Pro Evo. So I don't think we could talk about FIFA without talking a little bit about Pro Evo. But so this was a quiz mode, Football IQ, where you answer questions. Every time you answer correctly, your team advances down the pitch and you score a goal.
What?
It felt like I was playing. There used to be, when I went out, when I was like 17, 18 years old, to nightclubs, there used to be like an arcade box that you played and you won money out of it, like, a bit like, like, I guess, a gambling machine. And there was,
pub quiz machine.
Yeah, pub quiz machine. And there was a mode on that was like, I can't remember what it's called, maybe it was called Kickoff or something, or it was a football one basically. And you answered football questions and you had a grid and you scored goals and stuff. And, me and my friends at the time, you've got the game figured out. You're winning loads of money out of it, whereas actually you're just spending loads of money and you occasionally get a couple of quid drop out the bottom. But yeah, it was a bit weird. It just felt like a bit of an arcadey sort of gambling mode. I'm not entirely sure what they wanted to do with that. And some of the questions you could they were like, they could be as easy as, if you're you put yourself in as your profile being a Liverpool fan, as I did, then they were sort of simple as where the Liverpool play or whatever. But then some of the questions were also so abstract as well, where it was
what actually is a ball?
Yeah, it was ridiculous. It was I didn't understand what was going on. I played that for about 15 minutes. I was like, yeah, I don't know why this is in here, but it's a thing, it's a thing. So tournament mode. So you obviously play a tournament in loads of different countries. That is, and you could. I was shocked really again because it's probably taken for granted how internationally accessible football and FIFA games are, almost in a way now. I'd say, because they're if they don't have tons and tons of leagues on there, then it's not good enough. But actually, back in the day, it was sort of 09, 010, 09, 10 even, sorry, but look at these games where they start to include a lot more countries in there and a lot more leagues, and it was it really isn't all encompassing, that you can pretty much pick any team that you want now, which is great. So, or at least you'd probably pick a team that you're associated with in some way, and be able to do that on FIFA. So I feel like it's taken a little bit for granted. I don't know how you guys feel about that, or not, or.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. But then, for me, quite often, I would be playing FIFA around peaks in Reading's, existence. So, it was always nice to see them. Later FIFAs, they would be there, but it was always nice to see when they were listed, say, in the Premier League for about 20 minutes, Pro Evo and stuff like that, because you didn't have the lower down leagues, you kind of couldn't. And then there was, I think it was Pro Evo 6, where you could play as Berkshire Blues. And I'm like, oh, here we go. And all that. So, yeah, I think
absolutely great.
Yeah.
Surely it's better to play as Berkshire Blues, more exciting.
I mean, it is nowadays, yeah. But I think there's definitely something to be said for being able to find a team that you like somewhere in there, and having a big old pile of them to do so helps.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I agree on a kind of, for a different reason. I guess it kind of comes down to how and why I play games like FIFA, which we'll go through a little bit later. But for me, it's definitely beneficial to have that kind of big range of teams that you can kind of randomize through and just find some absolute no-name team in some weird country that you can then take over and see what you can do with them, basically.
Yeah. So speaking of taking over teams, there's a managers mode on this as well. I don't know why, but in at the start of it, they really capitalize the word "your," YOUR. They really go at pains to say it's your experience, it's your team, you're having a good time and stuff. And I'm fully aware that I am playing the game. I don't know why it's so confusing to me, where they were just you're the man, and I'm like, I know. I don't know what you were trying to tell me that. It was a weird thing that I picked up on the loading screen. But the loading times were very slow on the manager's game. I think it's probably just the database it was trying to drag up. I bought Benzema for 18 million. That is in like he's hopefully going to be a steal for me. I'm hoping he's going to develop into a good player. So
he'll be big one day.
Yeah, the guy. So weirdly though, so you in this manager mode in this, you physically play the games. That is in, so you're you control the team. So what is the point in the management mode where it doesn't test your management skills if you're just playing the football simulation game? It didn't make any sense to me.
Funnily enough, because I recently dipped into Football Manager and stuff like that as well, and Premier Manager, if anyone remembers.
Oh
that,
yeah, Premier Manager,
late 90s and stuff like that. And then I went back to FIFA. Was manager mode. Wait, I'm not managing. I'm basically telling them to train slightly differently. This is coach mode, I guess. Or put cones on the pitch mode, rather than manager. It sounds like you kind of had a similar revelation where it's it's just a slightly different coat of paint.
It just didn't make any sense that I was all right, you're the manager, but actually you could just play the game and score 6 goals or whatever, and be like, right, well, what difference did it make? I did any sort of management skills at all?
Although I think mine build that as player manager mode.
Which mine was definitely manager mode.
Kind of makes slightly more sense. Very slightly.
What kind of options were you getting in manager's mode? What were you capable of doing as manager?
Well, that was it. It was there was too much to it. It was a crazy amount.
Could you go ape shit in the locker room at halftime?
It was it was there was just a lot of like you said, the training sort of side of things and stuff, and how much training you did and what kind of training you give to people, and then all the usual sort of formation, and you're playing a high press sort of thing. I mean, that didn't exist back then. It wasn't a high press, it was but it was a pressing mode and stuff, and there was a lot to it. But I was but what am I doing all these jiggery pokery things for when actually I'm just playing FIFA?
Yeah.
So yeah, it seems a bit weird. Challenge mode, that was the fun mode for me. And I absolutely love these little challenge modes on games. When it gives you a scenario to escape from, you must score 2 goals in the next 45 minutes of this game, which is
God, yeah, I remember those. Yeah.
And it'd be it's the League One playoff final or something like that.
Yeah. No, I always really liked those. I thought that was a nice little addition.
Yeah. I mean, I think they really help you get across the impossibility or the improbability of sport in general. Because you kind of come and it was great. You could play any of them. You could. I think there was 100 to unlock. I was there was so many. It was you could just that was one. That could just be one game's worth of video gaming. So I was really impressed that they had so much content to it. I think I did 3 before I was well, it's kind of samey, and you have to be able to do it as well. So it's almost when you're always just coming back from 2 goals down or whatever, it's it becomes more probable and therefore less enjoyable. But it was good. It was a good little addition, really. So and then the last thing into the be a pro mode, and this is where I'm guessing that FIFA went from this is a football simulation sort of game to there has to be some sort of career progression to it. So this be a pro mode, I don't know how long it had been around for, maybe. I don't know if 09 was the sort of the time that they kind of got developed. When I read the reviews, it seemed to be around maybe the season before or this season. And that mode, weirdly, is the biggest chunk of the game, and you just pick a player and you then develop them and you play them for 1 season in this, whereas I think the console versions were maybe you could play 3 or 4 seasons, whereas with this it was you play them for a season. So that feels like a lot to kind of dig into, to play 40.
That seems like a real waste of time.
Yeah,
to be completely honest. 1 season playing as a pro,
Yeah, it was 40 games playing as Mark Bridge Wilkinson in the middle of midfield for Carlisle. Was I played 7 games, and at this point, so right you remember at the start of an EA Sports game, it'll say, what level are you playing at?
Yeah.
Now, I said stupidly, I was like, oh, well, I haven't played a FIFA game for a long time. Like, I'm going to put it on rookie mode. I scored 6 goals in one game as Mark Bridge Wilkinson.
Yeah.
we beat Tranmere 10-1. And I was like, about two games in, I was like, I need to change the difficulty of this. So, but the actual concept of it, that you just control this one player, it was quite novel. It was a bit weird, but then also, like, so you're just playing a completely different game. You're not playing a football simulation anymore, where you're playing as a team and scoring goals, etc. And the main aim of football. You're like, I could just do whatever I wanted on the pitch, and there was no real repercussions apart from it. It would tell you were out of position. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it would just, but I could go and tackle back, I could go and score and stuff, and it did give you like little challenges to do, where it was like, complete 20 passes, or call for the ball 5 times, or have 5 shots on target or whatever. So there were things to do, but like you say, Paddy, it felt, after like 3 or 4 games, it felt like a waste of time. Like, so
all I'm thinking now is, like, I can just imagine that your coach in the game has he's just completely given up.
Yeah.
He's like, Darren, get back! No, you're running up the field. You're going. All right, fine. Yeah, whatever. Just do what you want to do, man. I don't care anymore.
Yeah, exactly. It was like having a 7-year-old, like, as in just sort of like where they all converge on the football in the corner of the pitch all at the same time, kicking the shit out of each other. It's just like, get back here now.
Just like I drew it up in manager mode.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But so, this game was really odd. Like, on a whole, there was a lot to do, but did I need to do any of it? Like, not really. Like, as in, like, it didn't feel like I had to be doing any of these modes. So yeah, I enjoyed myself, but certainly, and this is what I felt for EA games on the PSP that I've played previously and will play more of. Like, they feel really half-baked in their concepts in so much. So, but this one was great because it had lots of different ways to play it, but I wanted to play them all for an hour, and then I was like, actually, I just want to play FIFA. Like, I just want to play a football sim. Like, and that's the bit that I really just want to play. Like, it all felt quite gimmicky, really, in a way. So, yeah, the oldest FIFA on our list, FIFA 09 out of all of us, I'm going to give that a 6 out of 10.
FIFA 09.
No.
Oh, I've written it down now.
Oh, your pen's everywhere. Oh,
flipping it.
5 out of 10. 5 out of 10. Sorry.
Fine. For you, I will scribble it out.
Thank you. Very kind of you.
It's fine. Everyone gets one.
Cool. Who wants to go next? I'm guessing it's you, Rich, with your
We're
PS
doing
Vita.
chronologically, yeah, it'll be me. So this rather unhelpfully is just called FIFA Football, just to really throw a spanner in the works, but came out, I think, about 2012-ish. And the main reason I say that is because when the commentators get bored and nothing's happening on the pitch, they start referring to Reading being in the Premiership in the past tense.
Yeah.
And then start going off on a weird meandering tangent about, they've got the hotel there now and they're trying to be self-sufficient and all that kind of stuff, which in the cold light of 2023, with a bunch of financial problems at the club, rings really different. So yeah.
It's so weirdly specific as well.
Yeah,
What a strange piece of commentary. Who are the commentators?
Good grief, that is a good question.
Mine was Andy Gray.
Yeah, I think Andy Gray pops up.
Yeah.
I can't remember the other person for the life of me, I'm afraid.
Tyler.
Yes. Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, and that's exactly it, Paddy. Like, it is weirdly specific, and it's almost like someone just, I don't know, went on a Wikipedia page and, pulled a fact off. They may as well have said, they play next to a business park that's got a wind turbine. It's that kind of level of weird detail. It's like, do I really need that? Really? And it kind of points to a few things. Like, whenever I'm talking about Vita games, I know I keep coming back round to this, like, notion of squandered potential. And once again, like, it just feels like it's so close to something really, really good.
Yeah.
And, like, it time-wise, it occupies a strange space for me because this is one of the kind of, like, my personal sort of 3 FIFA sort of peaks of playing them. So I'd played a lot of, in sort of 2011, 2012, that kind of area. So like for me, whenever you talk about FIFA, like the one that comes to mind for me as a quote unquote modern FIFA is this one.
This one, yeah.
And that's ignoring the fact that it is, a decade old plus. Exactly. So getting back into it was like, oh yeah, this is like all the fond memories of the kind of slightly silky, slightly janky animation where it's like, yeah, it looks great on the ball, but stick your fucking foot out. Like, don't just stare at the ball as it's trickling past you, you stupid idiot. Like, fucking stick a leg out. I'm not a good manager.
I love it.
I was searching for my go ape shit button and I just couldn't find it. Alas. But like, there'd be a couple of times where it would be really weirdly specific about like, I'm going to take control of this player now and automate their movement. And then when you want them to actually say run back to pick up a slightly short pass, they just kind of don't.
Yeah.
So like there's a couple of weird little oddities like that. When you're actually playing it, it runs smooth enough. But then as soon as you have the classic sort of FIFA, TV presentation style cutaways, the frame rate just tanks and it's like watching a slideshow. And it's got some real oddities. But it's like you're saying about FIFA 09, like it feels pretty complete when you look at the menus and stuff like that. It's got the arena mode and like Be a Pro is, I don't know what it was like on FIFA 09, but Be a Pro on this one, you're playing more from like the camera's behind you and you are playing as that one player, but you could create a player.
Okay.
And so it feels more like a fully fledged like RPG mode. And certainly, I think it was FIFA 11, maybe. I spent a lot of time on that, and you could play multiple seasons. And my little created Richard started off at Reading and ended up having a long and lucrative career at Arsenal, of all things.
Well done.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I didn't rekindle that with this. Mainly because I had some catastrophic fails, like technical fails, like error message fails.
Really?
Yeah. Like,
wild.
So
Brilliant.
I could start a tournament and I could play exhibition mode. I couldn't start a new game for Be a Pro or the manager mode, or I think there was another one that I couldn't start. And like I would be able to set up the teams and then it would just crash. Like every time without fail. I could load games. I could load the previous owner's games as Nottingham Forest.
Yeah.
Thanks, but no thanks. But I couldn't start anything. And I tried it on my PS TV as well, still had the same problem. Then put it back in the Vita, had a load more errors, and then suddenly I could do everything again. And it was like the cartridge had to reset itself somehow to actually work. Now, like I can't really dock it like points because I do feel like it's the cartridge itself that's the problem rather than the game per se. But nonetheless, like, for that to happen...
That's cool, though. It's interesting.
It was really, really unhelpful because it would be the same very specific point every time. And it was like you were saying about the manager mode databases and loading all that stuff. And it was almost like it was getting to that point. And it was just going, nope, can't handle it.
If anyone turns around and says that the PS Vita is not a retro console, like saying like, these kind of things prove.
I will find them, wave my copy of FIFA Football at them, and you bellow, blow on my cartridge, and see what happens.
With those management skills you're talking about, I'd be doing it.
Yeah, blow on my cartridge and get your ass back on the pitch.
Yes, sir.
I didn't get on with manager mode because I couldn't yell at people. Like you were saying, it feels, especially compared to some of the ones that are like, I'd always wondered, like, why would you want a football managing game when you've got a manager mode in FIFA? Now I understand why. Now I've seen them like back to back and side by side. I totally understand because they are very different beasts, and the FIFA one is very light by comparison, for better or worse. And like on the whole, though, it plays fine. It plays fun sometimes. Is it my personal favorite? No. Is it a good way of playing FIFA on the go? At the time, yeah, absolutely. But nowadays, as I'm sure Paddy will enlighten us, there are alternatives, and yeah, the whole thing's just it's got a special place for me because again, like I play it a lot when I was on buses, trains, all that kind of stuff. Like I go back with this game, but going back to it now, like it is difficult, and I've not even played that many FIFAs since. But if anything, I've played more Pro Evos from back in the day since, and now I see that kind of difference in a starker light. And if it's a toss up between, hey, do you want another 20 minutes on FIFA on the PS Vita, or hey, do you want to spend 10 of those minutes digging out your PS2 and hopping on Pro Evo 6? I'll probably say Pro Evo 6 and go Berkshire Blues. So yeah, like I think the only other thing really to point out is that it, as a PS Vita game, they did try and crowbar in some touch controls. And so
your favorite,
my favorite. So a couple of them you can pass using the touchscreen on the front. So rather than like tilting the analog stick and pressing a button and hoping that it'll get there, you can just kind of tap a player or an area of pitch to play the ball into, which I think could work, but it's that classic thing of, but you still want me to use my thumbs on the buttons.
Yeah.
And so I kind of run out of digits. But what was quite a nifty trick was the rear touchpad. If you're doing like be a pro mode or you're in the arena and you're playing as one player, in fact, no, you might be able to do it in normal matches as well. In fact, yes, you can, because I did it by accident a couple of times. You can use the rear touchpad to shoot. And so you kind of have to imagine the rear touchpad is like the shape of the, well, obviously it's the shape of the goal.
Yeah.
But where you touch on the pad will be where they aim the shot on the goal.
Yeah.
And then the trick is you have to hold it for as long as you want the power and the shot, and then it's up to the player's stats for how accurate it'll be when you're belting it and all that kind of stuff. Which, again, like if you're playing in Be a Pro, I found really, really helpful for that one specific use. When you're in a normal match and your fingers are trying to do 1,000,001 other things at the same time, it gets a little bit unwieldy.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, the fact that it's there is kind of cool.
And an actual use of the touchpad that you
actual
enjoyed.
Use for the rear touchpad, yes. Who knew? But it did mean that occasionally I would accidentally hit it and, make a fool out of myself. That's when I wasn't getting the shoot and cross buttons mixed up as well. Yeah. And like I was playing the Pro Evo way round, naturally, weirdly. So yeah, like it's good. Is it an all-time classic? No. Am I glad it's working again? Sure. So it's a 6 out of 10 for me all day, I think. I think on a good day, if it was working from the start, you maybe could have an argument for a 7, but it's a solid 6. Like it's fun, and it's cheap, so you can't really go wrong with that.
Yeah, fair enough. Paddy, hit us with some future FIFA all the way 12 years. 12 years? Yeah, 12 years further on than mine.
Yeah, was this
FIFA 21 on the Switch?
Yeah, so FIFA 21 for the Switch, which I think is the first game that was licensed for the Switch, as in the first FIFA game. Okay. And I can't remember now. Could you play FIFA on the GameCube? Did I have FIFA for the GameCube?
Yeah, I think you could.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure you could.
I think I might have had FIFA 2005 or something for the GameCube. But yeah, I picked it up because I just randomly a couple of years back wanted to play some FIFA. We do have like an old PS3 somewhere in the house, but I couldn't be bothered to go dig it out and play FIFA 13, I want to say, maybe. One thing you should know about me, we haven't mentioned yet in the pod, is I'm not necessarily a huge gamer, but there are specific games that I play a lot. So yeah, my kind of most up-to-date console apart from my Switch is a PS3, which is not even mine, it's my wife's. Because I mean, what these guys will already know is that I am basically like I play Nintendo games, and that's about it. There is a couple of PlayStation games that I've had in the past. I mean, since I was a kid, like back when I was younger, I was playing PlayStation, Xbox, whatever. But as a kind of adult gamer, I've only ever really played Nintendo games. They're the only ones that really particularly interest me. But obviously, with football as well, I have always kind of kept up to some extent with FIFA and Football Manager too. So picked up FIFA 21, and it kind of did what it said on the tin. It wasn't hiding the fact that it was like a stripped back version of the game. It was like, look, you're not going to be able to do like, you know, everything you can do on a more powerful console. But it does exactly the job that I want it for, which is to play season mode. You know, to go in, find some random team, go into the kind of transfer section and sell any player over the age of like 27, and then build like an entire new team of like only youth products, you know, because that's basically all I've ever done with FIFA. It's just the way that I enjoy it. It's funny actually that you guys were talking about, you know, almost the pointlessness of having like a manager mode where you were basically then just playing the games yourself. Because to be completely honest, and I think, you know, when we talk about Football Manager and stuff like that, I was kind of going to bring this up. I would love a game like that, like a proper game like that, where I could do all the meticulous managerial things, set up my tactics, do the training, scout players, sell players, negotiate contracts and all that kind of stuff, but then not leave my results down to the fucking AI. You know? So, because the amount of times where I've spent, you know, hours, days setting up little tactical things and signing the right players, where I'm like, no, this guy's got the stats that I need to take corners, and, you know, this guy's got the leadership stats to be my captain and all this kind of stuff. And then you hit play first day of the season, you get tanked 5-0 by the team that are like 20th place. It's like, what's the point? Why am I doing this?
The board are disappointed.
And it's then that I tend to turn to things like FIFA, because in a very, very childish way, I'm like, now, you know what? No, I'm going to win this game. I'm just going to take control of the players, and I'm going to make them win the game. It doesn't matter. I don't care who's on the pitch. They're winning the match, because I'm very, very childish when it comes to losing things like that. I have like no patience.
I've not met that streak in you ever, Paddy.
No. I hide it pretty well, you know, most of the time. But yeah, to be completely honest, I'm not going to say anything massively different from what you guys have said for 09 and FIFA football. FIFA 21 is a FIFA game. You sign players, you put them out on the field, you play games against the computer, you win, lose or draw, and that's the game. You know, it's never been particularly more than that for me since I started playing, I don't know, FIFA 99, I think was my first FIFA game, or maybe FIFA 98, the World Cup one. That is FIFA to me. I don't go in for Ultimate Team. I don't really play a lot of online gaming. It's just never really worked for me particularly. It's not what I enjoy doing. And I mean, I will not be buying another FIFA game. I very much doubt it in the future, unless the whim takes me. You know, I will probably just stick with FIFA 21 and run off that player database until it's completely out of date. But you know, it's enjoyable, and I like setting myself little challenges. When you mentioned before the kind of the challenge section where you had to, you know, come back from 2 goals down and all that kind of stuff, I do it a little bit differently. So what I did was I took over Harrogate Town, fairly local to us, but a League 2 side, very, very low budget, you know, no money, bunch of random players. Sold the players that I could get some money for, and then decided I was going to build a team of Swiss footballers for Harrogate Town. And I'm happy to report that I have a starting 11 completely comprised of Swiss footballers. And then on the bench, I've got some leftover Harrogate Town clingers on. He'll be gone soon, trust me.
Oh no! Keep one of them. One guy who doesn't know why.
Swiss sounding one.
Doesn't know why he's still there.
What do you mean we're renaming the team?
Don't get involved. You don't know how deep this goes. There's gold involved in this. All gold. But and that's what FIFA is to me. That it's the season modes. It's having fun with the game itself and finding players and producing youth products and things like that, and just building a little kind of escape from reality from yourself when your team's absolutely rubbish, and you can go on FIFA and have a bit of fun there. It was funny you guys mentioned 2011. When I was at uni, my two housemates, Dom and John, we would just sit all day and play FIFA 11, but we wouldn't play against each other. We each had a season. John was ironically a big Reading fan, Dom Leicester, myself Leeds, and we just had 3 separate seasons, and we would take it like 3 games at a time and just watch each other play our seasons, because we just found it endlessly entertaining, like the kind of the funny stuff that we could come up with for the players and the coaches and all this kind of stuff. It was genuinely like massively entertaining, and that's what we really enjoyed doing.
That's nice. It's like something like so social.
Nice memories.
Yeah. And it's funny. It's like, I mean, that's, it sounds like a very specific way of playing. And what you were saying before about how you can just take the different parts of FIFA and make your own fun. And I guess that's a real positive part of the FIFA series. Then is that you can play any part of the game and kind of go, well, that's my jam. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot to it.
Sporting sandbox.
Yeah.
But then I suppose you take that to the nth degree and you have the Ultimate Team stuff, which, like, on paper, I can totally see why people would be on board with it. You add fantasy football into the mix, and obviously, but it's and then you get into the microtransactions though, and it starts to get a little bit.
Can you? So I'm genuinely I've got a nephew who will be turning 12 years old, massive Newcastle fan, and then his brothers as well. Like, they're a little bit younger, but that and I know that they'll play FIFA and do Ultimate Team and stuff. But I'm not trying to sound like, archaic or anything, but I know so little about it. And can you play it without any microtransactions, or do you have to pay to play Ultimate Team?
You know what? I'm not sure. I've always had it pegged as basically the modern day equivalent of, when we used to get football stickers and stuff like that. I think you might be able to grind for certain things, but the impression I get is that if you want to be competitive in any meaningful way, like the system is designed to make it so that you are heavily incentivized to pay. Yeah. But I don't know if that's me being a cynical Watson. I dabbled with it once when it first came out, and I mean, I've never been a big one for fantasy football or anything like that, so it didn't really sink its claws into me. Which I think, if anything, speaks to what you were just saying about, you can find the thing that you like in it and do that. But yeah, I get the impression that it's not a requirement, but appreciated.
Yeah, by Mr. Moneybags. By that Swiss team over in Harrogate, banking away. Well, I just don't. I mean, I know I'm going to have to speak to the youth at some point in my life about it, but I don't. There obviously must be some benefit to it, but just for a game that comes out every single year, I don't really get, like, to plough £100 into an Ultimate Team. Like, what benefit do you get from that? Like, is it just, do you show it off to your friends online somehow? I mean, at least with football stickers, you could take them round to your mate's house and be like, look, I've got all the Man United players and you're a Man United fan, and fuck you, mate. I've got shiny Steve Bruce and you don't have him. Like, it's just like,
Steve Bruce is naturally shiny.
Yeah.
Oh, this podcast better not sort of start diving into us reading Steve Bruce detective stories or whatever they are.
Oh man, we've got. I would pay so much money to have some of those copies of those books. Like, honestly,
is this how we find out that the person listening to us on their holiday in Mexico is Steve Bruce?
Yeah, that'd be great.
A single tear falls on his already shiny face.
Shiny tear sliding down his face.
Hi, Steve. Great to have you with us.
So let's talk about, then I guess we touched on it a little bit when we were talking about our games that we reviewed a little bit. Oh, Paddy, you need to give us an arbitrary score out of 10 for FIFA 21.
6.
6. Cool. I'm really glad that we're.
Like, it's fine. It's FIFA. It's fine. It does what you want it to do. All good.
For one of the best selling franchises ever, like I think it, like at the end of 2022, I think it's like ranked like 7th, taking the most money. Like, you know, and that's like if you said all Mario games are a Mario franchise, that is in FIFA as a franchise is taking like the 7th most money like ever, which is like
wow,
you know, like. For something so big, for us to be scoring them 5s and 6s and going, yeah, it's FIFA. Like, as in, it just shows you that it's just like, I think that just shows the international reach of football as a sport rather than the game. Maybe I don't know. Like, it's just like everybody will play football physically in real life or virtually on a game. Maybe.
But I mean, I suppose it's quite a clever like the annual release thing and having like the latest player updates and kits and stuff like that. But doing it as individual games, and then when you get to the stage of being able to sell DLC, sticking to selling a new game each year rather than doing it as like a paid DLC update is a pretty ballsy conceit, and I can see why they've made as much money as they have.
Yeah, absolutely.
I get a feeling that they will see a hit in their sales now that it's not getting called FIFA.
I can't wait to see what happens because they've still got a load of the player licenses and the club licenses and stuff like that. So maybe it'll be fine.
Yeah,
I would ask where else people are going to go.
Yeah,
because
well,
I mean,
yeah.
I know that Pro Evo is still there. I know that Konami is still kind of plugging away, but I don't think it has anywhere close to the reach that it did in those mid 2000s.
No, I'd agree with that.
Wasn't the most recent iteration free?
It's like eSoccer or something like that, and
eSoccer, eFootball. So, yeah,
and I think it's basically free to play, and like you can see why they looked at a yearly release schedule, the state of online gaming now, and people being able to update games and patch things and or edit them, and then went, well, free to play kind of makes sense.
Yeah,
but yeah, I think Paddy's right. The impression I get is that it just doesn't cut through like it used to.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember back in the day, he says being all like misty-eyed and cantankerous and old, but like everybody going like, oh, FIFA or Pro Evo, which side are you on? And it was like another like mini little war. As us veterans of the Sega and Nintendo days always get teary-eyed about. So there doesn't seem to be anything like that nowadays.
When did that decimation of Pro Evolution Soccer happen by FIFA?
I think it was probably around 2012 going into 13. I think
absolutely. It was those early 2010s. I don't remember anything Pro Evo wise even breaking the surface around that time.
Yeah.
I mean, it's my very fleeting PSP memory, which seems obviously relevant to this show, is that
you're welcome to include
my fondest memory of the PSP, because I did have one, and mainly played Wipeout and stuff like that, was on a school trip to France. A bunch of us brought our PSPs, and we had, I think it was Pro Evo, must have been 2007, and playing, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, it was like local network connection or Bluetooth connection or something like that. And we spent the entire coach journey, whenever we were on the coach, playing Pro Evo on our PSPs, and it was great. Like it was, no one was thinking about FIFA at that time, as far as we were concerned. I think FIFA 2005 or 2006 was the last one that we had all played, and just didn't really dig it. And then Pro Evo ran it for maybe 4 or 5 years after that, and then everyone just, I don't know, migrated back to FIFA. It was like they kind of said, right, we'll do away with all the complicated stuff. We'll simplify it again. We'll kind of hit hard on the different modes that you can do. The online stuff started, and then FIFA just took off.
Yeah.
That basically tallies with how it went where I was as well. Because like especially when you're at school and sort of going into university and all that kind of stuff. There are those big sweeping, like you say, like migratory waves, aren't there? And ours were very, very similar at our school. And I don't know if it kind of, I dimly recall it maybe kind of coincided with console generations and stuff like that. Like I very much have like the kind of Pro Evo and International Superstar Soccer and the good old sort of Konami weirdness, I think you termed it on one of the chats, Paddy. Like I very much tie that to like the N64 going into sort of the GameCube and the PS2 era. And FIFA doesn't really, I think, like whatever the GameCube one was that I did play, I think, like you say, Paddy, I think it was 2005-ish. Like it popped up, but that's a blip in a long like Konami dominated run. And then as soon as you get into like the Xbox 360 and onwards, that's all FIFA.
It does feel like that. I mean, I had some Pro Evo games for the PS3. And that was, like I said, probably the last football sims that I really played. And yeah, it does feel like maybe that step up in realism in terms of actually the licensings that FIFA have, and also the realism of the consoles becoming better in terms of how more realistic they were as next generation consoles. Maybe it was that sort of, you know, that's a full complete package. And then also, like you say, that maybe was a step up, Paddy, like, you know, with the seasons and sort of, you know, the career mode and things. You know, what's it called now? It's not called Be a Pro. Is it called Be a Pro now, where you play that?
They still have the Be a Pro like mode.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the one that Rich described, where you can create a player or you can take over a real player. And you know, give them a kit number, pick their team and the position and everything like that. And then you can either play with the individual where the camera's kind of behind you and it's like an action camera.
Yeah.
Or you can just play as the full team.
Yeah.
And your guy just gets the you know, the achievements that they get if they play particularly well.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I've kind of messed around with it a few times and I find it just horrendously repetitive. Nothing exciting happens. Whoever your coach is, the system blatantly hasn't been given enough attention to respond to anything that your player is doing. Like, I remember creating a player, starting in Leeds, and right at the start, the coach comes to you and says, like, right, you're not in my first team plans, so I'm going to look to loan you out. And you're like, oh, okay, fair enough. Do pre-season with Leeds, scored like 10 goals in pre-season, you know, and then it's like, yeah, we're going to sell you. You're off to Rochdale. And I'm like, love it. All right, okay, you know, and then you're at Rochdale and you're banging like ridiculous amounts of goals in, and you get like a call up for the national team. I'm playing League Two. Like, what are you on about?
That's because you were playing for Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah, that must be it. I ended up in literally my first season. I went from Leeds to Rochdale, and then I got picked up by Le Havre in France. I was like, all right, fair enough.
I'll go to France for a season.
Yeah, I'm gonna Kevin Keegan this.
Yeah. Only Kevin Keegan can Kevin Keegan it. So I was going to ask a question before then, just about then your favourite FIFA memories in terms of like game maybe or time period that you really enjoyed. You know, again, there'll be people listening to this podcast that probably play all the most recent FIFAs that'll be ripping their hair out and thinking
what this. Are you talking about?
Absolute hatred for this podcast, but we can't help it. You know,
yeah, well, if you hate it, tell us. Engage.
But yeah, so Paddy, do you want to go first this time? Like, as in, what's your favourite sort of FIFA memories / like era? You know, I guess time that you played FIFA. I mean, I know you just shared one. Really, actually, it was probably
I mean, that's obviously up there. I think my other one I was thinking about earlier today was it was I remember it specifically being just before the millennium, so it was 1999, because my family went out into the Lake District for and like rented a big cottage for New Year's. I remember I took along my PS1. And I have just really, really vivid memories of being like 8 years old and sitting in my bedroom in this cottage, this kind of like attic room where I'd set up my PS1, my little TV, and I was playing, it must have been FIFA 2000, I guess. And we're talking back when it was just like angular faces, you know, no determinable features whatsoever. Which by the way is still the best era of FIFA. Like,
Yeah,
I couldn't care less about how realistic the players look. Like, I'm happy with them being angular faces. That's fine. You know, if Darren Huckabee's got a white shirt on and he looks like, I don't know, Pyramid Head, like, no problem by me whatsoever. But I don't know. I just really, really warm, fuzzy feelings thinking back to that.
Yeah.
And just kind of, you know, sitting like, you know, blanket overview, lights off, PlayStation on, playing that game. And it's just, you think back and it's just super stripped back, nothing complicated whatsoever. You're just playing FIFA and enjoying it. And like I said, that's kind of what it's always been like for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll go with that.
Cool. Awesome. Rich?
So I'd kind of touched on it earlier where I spoke about my kind of three peaks of FIFA. And obviously, like, you know, Reading's sort of second tenure in the Premiership kind of coinciding with FIFA getting good again was up there. But my other ones were like, I will forever and a day have a soft spot for FIFA 95 on the Mega Drive.
Is that the very first one?
I don't know if it was the first one. It might have been the second, or it was an early one.
Maybe might have been the first one.
Yeah,
I picked that up before in a retro gaming sort of like, oh, the first FIFA. Like,
yeah, I dust it off and like with a little brush. And I rented it loads back in the day. Like, I absolutely bloody loved it. But I would always play as Dortmund because the kit really stood out. And like I would just purely based, like, I knew nothing about football besides the fact that I'd gone to, or I was starting to go and see Reading play with my dad. Yeah, it was just, oh, hey, that kit looks interesting. I will start playing as them. And the other one that I will always have a soft spot for is FIFA 98. Mainly because, you know, Song 2 in the intro, hearing that as, you know, when you're on the cusp of your teenage years, knocks your socks off. But also indoor football.
Yeah.
Like,
absolutely.
how have we got to this point
Brilliant.
in FIFA Dumb, and we haven't had like as much of a revival of indoor football? Like, I think maybe it's popped up once or twice.
They brought it back, and then they kind of like dropped it again and stuff. Yeah,
and it never seems to stick around. And I mean, granted, you've got like FIFA Street and stuff like that, which kind of does a very, very similar job with a bit more flair. But like, why it can't be part of the main series as standard, I don't know.
Yeah.
But like me and my friends would spend a lot of time on that indoor pitch rather than playing.
That is such a great shout, Rich.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the indoor mode. I remember, like, and you get like 5 players, wouldn't you? And it like, so players Liverpool, and I'd have David James in goal, Phil Babb as my centre back, Steve McManaman, like, and like Robbie Fowler, like, and it was sort of like, you know, like, and then I think Collymore, and I was like, well, how are they the 5 players that I've got in my fucking indoor team? Like, that sounds like the worst team. Like,
well, you could pass off the wall.
Yeah,
like that was it. That was basically the main draw, wasn't it? Like that was it.
Yeah, I think that they probably took the engine from their NHL games that the EA Sports did and just kind of like
that would make sense.
It looked like that. It was a great angle. I remember like the angle of the pitch and the camera. It was like, it wasn't straight. It
felt different.
Yeah, it was like a diagonal angle that you watched the indoor games at. It was really weird. Like, and it wasn't quite like you played horizontally like you did the football pitch in a way. Like, almost it was. I remember it being a bit different, but. I mean, I'd be sticking around that same sort of era as well. You know, and obviously indoor football is great. I'd say the goal celebrations with your Sega sort of ABC, like, you know, maybe 97. I think I remember having David Ginola on the front of that, and you know, and you'd score a goal and it'd be like, and you'd go. And you're like, that's the best. That is, you know, like, that's what I'm playing this game for. And like you could turn. Sorry, Paddy, that probably sounded terrible over the phone. It's like, what's going on? Like,
my neighbour works really.
That was great. It's like dopamine release. Awesome.
It's like, and could you turn off
I'm sure you could turn fouls off. And like,
Yeah,
you could
probably
just,
it becomes red cards.
Just hack the shit out of each other and stuff. And like,
it was in the training section. Like you could do training matches and just kick the shit out of your own players.
Yeah. Set up a full 11-11 and then just hammer each other to bits.
And then I had the menus are always really fun. Like the music, the generic sort of sort of in the menu, like like your cursor would be like a little spinning football, like as it going around, little things like that. You just remember, like but certainly I'd say my peak FIFA playing time was Road to World Cup '98, and playing that on the PC,
just a great game.
Yeah, playing that on the PC with a joystick was brilliant.
Yes.
Yeah.
They really they really lent into bending Beckham's free kicks with that joystick like nothing else. Like just controlling the football, like as you're trying to flight it over a wall, like and never scoring, but thinking it might happen at one point. But yeah, I really I played a lot of Road to World Cup '98 on my PC, and
that's immense.
Yeah, it was
I remember specifically being in Dublin at my cousin's place in Dublin, and he had Road to World Cup '98 on the PC, and we take it in turns to play on the joystick. And I always played with South Africa because they had Lucas Radebe as their captain, and I loved the commentator's pronunciation of Radebe.
Oh man,
it was a good era for commentary though, wasn't it? Because it would always be like, and here's England playing against Sweden.
we mentioned in the chat that we had before this the International Superstar Soccer Pro for the SNES.
Oh yes.
Remember that? And the pronunciation of Nigeria.
Feels like the commentator's got
different
a gun
people
to
speaking each time.
it feels like he's got a gun to his head when saying certain countries.
Such a golden era for game commentary.
That's crazy. So I think we're going to wrap it up for part one of our series of pods there,
Odyssey.
I think. And then we will probably talk a little bit more about like maybe football supportership, and we're going to talk about football/championship manager in the next pod. So do hit us up for that next week. So thanks very much for listening, guys. Thank you, Paddy, and we'll speak to you all soon.
Cheers.